The home run is an absolute staple of the game of baseball. Some of its most iconic moments have come from it, such as Babe Ruth calling a shot, the 98 home run race between McGwire and Sosa, Barry Bonds hitting the all time record. And it's one of those things that's kind of transcended the game itself and kind of propelled itself into popular culture, such as phrases with, oh, that's a home run, or something like that, and numerous movie references. So that kind of brought me to the conclusion, or I guess the question more rather, over who's the best player to never hit a home run. So to begin, one of the things I did is I created a query to see players who have played at least a minimum 100 games, because there's been thousands of players in MLB history. Most of them only stuck around for a handful of games and such, being called up for the minor leagues, so on and so forth. So I really wanted to figure out who was the best player never hit a home run, who had decent longevity, so I figured 100 games is a pretty solid mark to begin with. When I was looking over this video, I realized I forgot to mention we're going to be excluding pitchers from this list, just because I really want to be focusing on position players. Otherwise, we'll be talking about Greg Maddux, Sandy Koufax, a bunch of other legendary pitchers, and that's not really the purpose of this video. So then, after we pulled this query of 100 game minimum, I then filtered it down to players who'd never hit a home run before. This gave me a total of 181 players. Majority of them were from the very early days of baseball, so we're talking very early 1900s to the late 1800s. I think one of the big reasons for this is because in the earlier days of baseball, home runs weren't terribly popular. Most of the players focused on just putting the ball in play, so singles, doubles, maybe even triples, but overall the home run was just not quite the staple that it is today, and especially in the home run heavy environments that we see in the modern major league. So to really combat this, one of the things I'm going to be doing is focusing on after the dead ball era. And the dead ball era is kind of an era of 1900 to roughly about 1920 in the major leagues, where runs scored weren't very high and home runs were very rare. So for our sample size, like I said, we're going to be focusing on players who played after this dead ball era. So I'm going to be using three stats, or three criteria really, to judge all of these players. The first one is going to be OPS plus. OPS plus, for those of you who don't know, is a stat that tries to take a player's OPS and normalizes it across the entire league. So 100 is always league average for this stat, and it takes into account various things such as a park factor. But anyways, we'll probably do a video on that at some later point in time. But for now, just know that 100 is always considered average for this. So if a player has 110 OPS plus, that means that they're doing about 10% better than league average. Next criteria I'm going to be using to evaluate these players is WAR, or wins above replacement. This is another advanced analytic that we'll get into maybe a few videos down the line. For the time being, just kind of think of it as how much better this player is than a replacement level player. So that could be either a bench player or a minor league player. So, for instance, if a guy has one WAR on the season, that means that he won his team about one more win as opposed to what a bench player or a minor league player would have done in that spot. So one of the last things I'll be using is accolades. Now, this could be anything from All-Stars to MVPs to Gold Gloves, Silver Sluggers, anything like that from there, just to really kind of get a better feel or better view of a player's career holistically. And I really also want to kind of look at it as far as longevity wise, because to me, if you found a way to stay in the major leagues for multiple seasons despite not having a ton of power at the plate, that really shows that you excelled in another area of the games, whether it be defense, base running, anything like that. So with all that being said, we can get a little bit into what we found. So start off with the modern game of baseball. There aren't really many notable players who fit this criteria. I think the only active one that I saw was Jose Herrera. He's a catcher for the Diamondbacks. His career OPS plus, it's at about 50, but at the time of recording, he was sitting at about 97, so he looks like he's having a little bit of a bounce back. And the player with the most plate appearances is going to be Luis Gomez. He played from the early 70s all the way up to the early 80s, and he amassed over 1,000 plate appearances. So far in the modern game, there aren't any players who have an OPS plus north of 100. In fact, throughout the entire list, there's only 3 players listed with OPS plus that are 100 or above. One is Walter Christensen, who played from 1926 to 1927 with an OPS plus of 111. And Willard Hirschberg just barely sneaks in there with an OPS plus of 100, so right at league average. And he played from 1938 to 1940. So that only leaves one player remaining who has at least 100 games played and a career OPS plus of above 100, and that's Mr. Artie Wilson we have here. So as you can see, we have some of his career statistics. So you can see he has 6 WAR, which reminded from earlier, which is 6 wins above replacement level player. He has a career batting average of 366, OBP of 428. He slugged 460, and the OPS plus sits there at 153. So he's absolutely towering over most other people in this category. Obviously, with there only being 3 above the OPS plus level of 100, the majority are well below it. And he was actually a 7-time All Star and actually won a batting title, which is pretty crazy to think for someone who never hit a home run. I know that the batting title is based off of batting average and not power to plate home runs or anything like that. But it definitely initially shocked me seeing that a player who never had a career home run also had a batting title because, like you said, most of the players on these lists have an OPS plus well below 100. So most of them weren't even league average at batting. So to see somebody who actually has a batting title and who's also on this list, it just initially baffled me. And just to really kind of show you how crazy his batting title season was, is right here in 1948, he had a batting average of 433, which, for those of you who don't know, is an extraordinarily elite batting average. Anything batting over 300 is considered quite good, and this guy was up over it by 13 points. He had a 500 on base percentage, so that means is pretty much he had a 50-50 chance of getting on base, whether it be a hit, a walk, anything like that, and his total OPS plus for the season was 191. So that means he was 91% better than the average batter. And as if the batting title and such was not enough, we can also come down here into his defensive WAR. And defensive WAR is exactly what it sounds like. It's wins above replacement, but more focused on just the defensive side of the ball. He actually had 3 seasons where he was top 10 within his league. And so not only was this guy getting it done at the plate with the extremely high batting averages, but he was also seen to be quite good on defense. So that's pretty much it. In my opinion, Artie Wilson is the best player to never hit a home run. But I would love for you guys to maybe do a little bit of research of your own and let me know in the comments below if there's any players I missed or maybe any criteria you think that I should have included with this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know in the comments below any other topics you think I should cover. If you have any questions related to what I talked about in the video, or just maybe any other sports stats or baseball questions that you have, my goal with this is to kind of make smaller, just kind of bite-sized content that really kind of explains sports statistics or a lot of other various analytics that people use in sports. I really just want to kind of introduce analytics to everybody because I think that a lot of people perceive there be a very high barrier of entry with this, and I really want to kind of show that anybody can get on into it. I mean, a few years ago I had never even watched a baseball game, and here I am making these videos. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Seriously, anything I can help you out with, just let me know.